Careblazers, welcome back. Today, I have a very special guest who's going to talk about an amazing resource that is beneficial to your loved one with dementia and for you and can do all kinds of amazing things. So I have a special guest here named Allison. Allison, can you do a brief introduction of yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Hey, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me here today. So my name is Allison Schreier, and I'm here today in my capacity as a founder of Zinnia TV. My background is that I am a person who would have been perfectly suited to be in your audience. So my husband was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia when he was 47. And right around the same time, my stepdad was diagnosed with vascular dementia and my stepmom had Alzheimer's disease. So I was in the place that all of your audience is in, of wondering, like, what am I doing? And am I doing it right? And so anyway, that experience led me to lean heavily into caregiver stuff because I had to find a new career. My background is in technology, but I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years, which I loved, but it wasn't gonna, So I had to find a new path. And my path was that I started figuring out skills around caregiving that I might be able to share with other people. So I started teaching classes about caregiving. I got certified in Washington State, which is where I live, to teach classes that are required for professional caregivers. And I got a job with the University of Washington working on a program that was teaching doctors to be better equipped to support people who are living with dementia. And all the while in the background, I had this idea for what has become Zinnia TV. And so Zinnia TV, broadly looking at it, could be considered kind of like Netflix for people with dementia. So it is programming that is specifically custom curated. We build all of our videos to be something that is suitable for a person who can't necessarily track a plot or tell fact from fiction or process rapidly moving audio and video. However, it's much more than that. It's a tool to help caregivers, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But the path to that was simply that I found that I was having a really difficult time connecting with my husband, especially once he'd moved into long-term care, and I would visit him there and he was nonverbal, and I would find myself just at a loss for what do we talk about? I also noticed in long-term care that he was often parked in front of a television, and I would show up to find him just kind of looking around the room. He wasn't sure what he was supposed to be focusing on. He might be agitated and pounding his chest. He might be asleep. And I just thought, my gosh, we must be able to do better than this. We must be able to come up with some kind of programming that is actually engaging for and meaningful for people who are living with dementia. And because I couldn't find it, I put together a team and we built it.
I love that. That's amazing because it came out of a personal need. And it is so it's such a big need. I host weekly support groups inside of my program, and Zinnia TV has come up inside of those support groups because a lot of the Careblazers will talk about their loved ones watching TV like they always have, but Careblazers were noticing their loved one would get more distressed or agitated by some of the shows that they used to watch all the time. Shows like news, or even sometimes like the war shows, or, the action shows, like their loved ones would get antsy and amped up. So several of our Careblazers have talked personally about how Zinnia TV has been this answer of allowing them to continue to do this thing that they enjoy, watching TV, but not without all of those agitation signs that they see. So can you talk to us a little bit about what is Zinnia TV exactly? Like, these can't be flukes that what my Careblazers are seeing is much more calm when they're watching the TV. Like, what's going on with you guys? What do you do?
I'll bring up my screen and show it to you. But first, I'll just share with you that the path to building Zinnia TV started out with creating content, right? We had to nail the content. What is it that would work for a person living with dementia? And so we started off making videos that I would show to people living with dementia. I would go into long-term care communities and show them to people living with dementia. When we felt like we had gotten it, right? We had a process that was working. We were so incredibly fortunate to have a Canadian philanthropist fall in love with us, and he funded a research study at the University of British Columbia that was matched with Canadian governmental funds. And for 2 years, they used Zinnia in long-term and acute care settings, so at Vancouver General Hospital. And the three main use cases that they were looking at were Zinnia as a tool to promote connection and communication between the people giving and receiving care, and also in a long-term care between people who have dementia, that if they're watching something together, it's digestible enough that they are able to connect and have conversations about it. The other thing that they found in research is that it gives people a little bit of a break. So even professional caregivers who can be like, okay, this is cool, I've got a little bit of time. And we see this with family caregivers all the time, that they get respite. We never suggest that anybody parks someone in front of a TV all day. But my gosh, if I know that the fly fishing video is going to keep him busy for 20 minutes and I can go get dinner prepped, I'll take it. So that was the first use case. The second one was Zinnia as a tool to reduce agitation. So what they found, and again, what we hear from family caregivers all the time, is if there is something that is really compelling for the person that I love, when they're starting to get upset, I can say, hey, why don't we look at these babies? Or, hey, why don't we check out the dogs? Or let's go on a walking tour. And so they watch the video together and it brings down agitation. And then the third use case that they tested for in research was Zinnia as a tool to help with adherence for activities of daily living. So we have a channel that is just daily living videos. Let's use the toilet. Let's take medications. Let's take a shower. And what it shows is just beautiful footage of people doing the thing that I wish we were about to do. And by seeing it and seeing other people doing it and being okay with it, we find that the person living with dementia is okay with it. Especially in the research, they discovered that if they watch the videos on a daily basis, that it just normalizes that activity and takes some of the stress away from it. So those were the three main things that we've tested for, and that has borne out, and other things, which I'll talk about when we run through it, but that has borne out in other research studies. I'm really excited that we have some research that's about to start is looking at Zinnia as a tool to reduce the use of antipsychotics.
Oh, wow.
Because if I'm able to do, which we have seen, that when somebody is starting to get agitated, if we use Zinnia as a tool that brings them down, then we might not need the antipsychotic. There's also research going on at Duke University right now where they're looking at cortisol levels and reduction of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, in people who are living with dementia when they're watching Zinnia videos. And I'm very excited that we're going to be doing research in the state of Massachusetts with it's something called the Digital Health Sandbox. And they're going to be looking at Zinnia in both home care and long-term care settings, again, as a tool to just help with caregiving. And we are delighted that in surveys of our subscribers, 80% of dementia family caregivers have said that Zinnia reduces their own stress. So I think that our mantra at the end of the day is if my loved one is happy, I'm happy. And so if I'm able to reduce his or her agitation, then that lowers my own stress. And that's really what I'm about, because I know as a dementia family caregiver, I was really worried about the impacts that stress would have on my own health. And in my case, I had kids in the house. So like, how are they doing? My mission is to help family caregivers have a better day.
I love that. How about you show us behind the scenes what Zinnia TV looks like? And
I would love to.
an
So let me
idea.
go ahead and share my screen. Okay, do you see my Zinnia screen?
I do.
Okay, so Zinnia is an app for connected TVs and mobile devices. So I'm just running it on a laptop right now, but when you pop into Zinnia, this is what you see. And some people use it on a television, or they use it on an iPad, or they use it on both. So our videos are organized by channels. And I like to point out just at the very beginning that we also do have caregiver education videos and videos about how to use Zinnia. So if I want to use Zinnia to help reduce agitation, how do I do that? So the reason that we created Zinnia out of the gate is really about this channel, interests. And it was that I wanted to have something that I could sit and have a conversation with my husband about and not be struggling for things to say. So if the person who I'm caring for, I'm going to go ahead and turn down the volume here. All of our videos are set to music and sound effects. This is pretty typical of a Zinnia video. So it's hard to miss what the topic is. It's front and center. It's right in the middle of the screen. Bright colors, vivid imagery. If I were sitting with a person who was crazy about gardening, this would be my opportunity to be the narrator, right? The narrator for the story. We don't have dialogue. Some of our videos have a person who's talking in an instructional way about what we're seeing, but we don't have conversations going back and forth. And so I would be able to talk about, I remember when we would, oh boy, we always made the best soil, didn't we? What was it that we put in that? Was it sand that we added? Or if the person who is watching with me, my loved one with dementia, and if they are able to have a conversation, I would invite them to be the narrator, to tell me about what we're seeing, to allow them an opportunity to be the expert in the room. If we look at something like, I'm going to go to classic cars, this is one of our older videos that instead of being action is just still shots. And in this case, this is a video that was used in Vancouver General Hospital, where they sent us a video of a person watching this. So in this case, there was a gentleman who had been brought into the emergency room because of agitation, and then they weren't able to place him. So he wound up basically living at the hospital, which is a story that you, I know, are familiar with it, and we hear it way too often. But he would get into a state of high agitation. And so they showed us a video where they brought this fellow into a room where they had a projection system mounted, and Zinnia was actually on a wall. And you see this guy coming into the room, and he's obviously in a state of agitation, but he sees a digestible stream of images, and he walks up to it. And he is suddenly the expert in the room, and he's talking about what he sees. He's educating people about the cars. And by the end, he is a completely different guy. He has reset into a calmer version of himself. And it's the same thing that we hear. It's that second use case that I talked about of people using Zinnia to reduce agitation. And in this case, for instance, if you could hear this, you hear a baby giggling. I was at a conference where somebody approached me and they said, oh my gosh, I work in long-term care. We've got a woman who gets into a state on a regular basis where the only thing that we can do is give her a dose of her antipsychotic because that's what her care plan says.
Oh.
And she said, but I knew that she had been a pediatric nurse for 40 years. And I thought, you know what? I bet that the baby's video would be an antidote to her agitation. And she said, so what she did when she started getting agitated, we showed her the baby's video, and she said, Allison, within seconds, she was fixated. She was cooing at the babies, and we did not give her antipsychotic that day. We wound up then eventually working with her doctor to change her care plan, where the first course of action was Zinnia videos, which is pretty exciting. So it's great to figure out, what is it? What is the thing that would be of great interest to the person that you support? And that's why we have so many different topics. But we also have these other channels. So maybe the thing that your loved one is really into is animals, or maybe they'd be into travel videos, or our faith channel is extremely popular. We have lots of different sing-alongs. I will also point out this activity of daily living video, which I had mentioned, or daily living channel, which I had mentioned briefly before. And so the idea here is simply that we are about to have a drink of water. And rather than have there be, let me just shift in my seat here for a second, rather than have there be any confusion about what are we about to do, I just show a video. And it sets the tone. We're about to have a drink of water. Or you can imagine that I might say to my mom, hey, this would be a great time to drink water. And mom might say, I don't need to drink water. I just had some, because she has dementia and she doesn't remember that she hasn't had water for a very long time. We absolutely want to avoid dehydration. So instead, what I might do is, rather than argue, right? We're never going to argue with a person with dementia. What I'm going to do is just say, yeah, that's cool. Hey, let's watch a video together. And I just have a couple of glasses of water on the table so that we can quench our thirst together. The nature videos are wonderful for setting the tone, right? Just kind of a quiet tone, but they're also, like all of the videos, a great catalyst for an activity. So for instance, if I wanted to get my loved one to walk outside with me to look at the fall leaves, I might just watch this video first. We watch the video together, and then when the video is over, I just say, hey, what a great idea. How about if we go outside and look for some fall leaves? We also have videos that are intended to drive activities. So where I could watch something like fall leaves and then go for a walk, we also have videos like fun and games that are specifically intended to give us something to talk about, There are jokes, there are puns, there is a poetry read-along that actually has the words on the screen, and all of our sing-alongs have the words on the screen as well. And we have recently started this new channel, which are quizzes. This is something that we popped up a few just to give people a taste, but we're in the background rapidly producing a lot of these videos, which they're pretty fun. The challenge for us is to find this sweet spot. How do you have something that is not insulting, right? You don't want it to be so easy that people feel that they're being treated like a child. So that's been a really interesting process for us. And we are doing some research at a care community that's just looking at these videos.
Oh, cool.
And
how do dogs communicate with other dogs when they meet? Is the answer by wagging their tails? Is it by barking loudly? Or is it by rolling over?
And then it just slowly eliminates the choices that are not the correct choice, leaving behind the one that is correct. And then we give a fact about dogs.
Oh,
Dogs
very cool. Yes, and the pace is very nice.
Barking
We've
in a friendly way.
Done a lot of work to try and get the pacing down, and we're starting to create some that are specifically labeled easier, because some of them, when we do our testing in Massachusetts, we're going to be looking at these quizzes in both assisted living and in memory care to try and figure out whether we can support both those populations. The other thing I'll just point out before I wrap up here is that we did a wonderful program with a group called Enhanced Fitness over the summer. That's this gal in the pink shirt, where we created a bunch of videos that are intended for the person living with dementia and their care partner to do together to work on strength and balance and movement.
I love that.
And the intention, there are tons of YouTube videos that can help with all of those things.
Yep.
And we just want to give a taste, something that you can do when you're within Zinnia that might scratch that itch for you. And so I'll just go ahead and stop there.
So in general, like, how long is a video typically?
That's a great question. So most of the videos are anywhere from around 9 minutes, say, to 20 minutes. But
Okay.
we also have a channel that's called Longer Videos. And on that, we have videos that themselves are longer, like up to an hour long. But we also have playlists that are just relaxing videos, for instance, that might go on for a few hours. And again, and we even have the all day channel, right? Where we'll just go from video to video to video. And any of them do that. Like if I put on the animals channel after dogs, it'll automatically go to cats and then go to bunnies.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Does would a Careblazer have to be watching when the video ended to get another one going, or can it autoplay? Can you? Yeah.
No, they don't have to. It will autoplay. And I think the beautiful thing, and I like to make this distinction. Some people will say, yeah, but I can do it YouTube, right? And
Right.
I can just watch animal videos on YouTube. The problem with that is they have not been custom curated to be specifically accessible for people with dementia, and you run into commercials. And then what do you do?
Yeah.
So
Unless you pay for a premium subscription. So,
and if you're going to do that, you see,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit? First of all, I have a side question. What's with the name Zinnia? How did that come about? Is there a story there?
Oh, thank you for asking that. I'm a mad gardener. I'm crazy about it. And I grow zinnias every year. And the thing that I love about zinnias is that even in the worst of conditions, they still flourish. And so I liked the idea that we are trying to help people bloom beyond their diagnosis. So
that's beautiful. Yes, I'm glad I asked that question. Okay, so talk to us about how Zinnia works. If a Careblazer wanted to experience this and try it for their loved one, how does it work to have Zinnia?
A few different ways. Our website is zinniatv.com, ZINNIATV.com. And there are videos that you can watch right on the website if you just wanted to check them out. There is a 14-day free trial. So if you sign up, it does require a credit card. But if you cancel within 14 days, the credit card never gets charged. So it waits 14 days to do that charge. So you have 14 days that you can try it out and see if you like it. For family caregivers, it is $69 a year for a Zinnia subscription. And then we will give a code for Careblazers to get 20% off. And so that would be Careblazers, followed by the number 20. And so when you log in, there's a spot to put a code. If you typed in Careblazers 20, you will get 20% off of that annual subscription. And then you can watch it on a laptop like I was just doing. It works on Roku, it works on Amazon Fire, it works on some Samsung, but not all. It works on Apple TV, Android TV, it works on iPads and Android devices. So if you had a TV like an LG TV, you would need to spend another probably like between $25 and $30 to get a Roku or an Amazon Fire Stick to have Zinnia work.
Now, could you access these videos on a phone?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And in fact, one of the things that people do is they will, for instance, have Zinnia videos. It's just the same thing. I just download, like it's free to download the app.
Right.
And then I just use those same login credentials everywhere. So I might have it on my iPhone. And when we're sitting at the doctor's office or we're sitting at the airport lobby or the airport gate that we can watch videos together, or if we are visiting another, like we're going out of town, we might bring an iPad with us or play it on the TV when we're out of town.
Yeah.
Most people do tend to play it on a TV because, especially given the visual changes that happen for a person who's living with dementia, that larger viewing experience is always best.
Yes. Okay. I love that. I do love the creativity too of, I mean, waiting, and whether it's an airport gate or a lobby or a doctor's office, like that's also an anxiety provoking situation that tends to bring out some restlessness in some people. So giving,
Absolutely.
being able to have Zinnia at the palm of your hands is wonderful. I appreciate the generous offer for our Careblazers here in the audience to use when you go to ZeniaTV.com. Sign up for that free 14-day trial, but put Careblazers 20, use that code so that you can get 20% off. I think it's a very reasonable cost anyway. Like that's a really great.
I think so. I mean, I look at it as, what do you pay for care, right? If
Right.
I have somebody coming to my house and helping me, Zinnia is about the cost of like 2 or 3 hours of having somebody come and help you around the house, or help take care of your loved one. And I will also say that one of the things that we hear from family members is that it's really great to have Zinnia for when they do have somebody who's coming to spend time with their loved one, that they can let them know, like, and if things get a little unhappy, by all means, watch the bunnies video or watch fly fishing or baseball or whatever it might be. And that tends to help soothe him or her.
I also love, and it goes back to one of those use cases of connection. Like I could even imagine friends or family members who aren't around a lot when they come visit and they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They're just kind of sitting there. It's like, well, we could watch some programming together and talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm delighted that there's a hospital here in Seattle that uses Zinnia. They have a cart that they wheel into the rooms if there's a person who's living with dementia when their loved one visits, and they have tablets with Zinnia running so that they can sit and have something to talk about.
Yeah.
And also more and more in long-term care communities that use Zinnia, they have it on tablets for when families visit, that they can take the tablet with them to visit their loved one. I think the important thing to recognize is that it's not a cop-out like, hey, instead of talking, we're going to watch TV together. It is a tool to promote conversation and to promote connection. It gives us something to talk about and to connect over.
Yes, I love that. So thank you so much for sharing about all this. And what I really like is that intuitively it makes sense. Put on some sort of programming that somebody can watch that they might be interested in. It makes sense intuitively that it would decrease agitation and restlessness, that it would promote connection. But you have the data and the research to back it up, and research is ongoing. And I think that's really fantastic. It's an evidence-based approach to dementia care. And as we know, going toward medications, especially antipsychotics, is never a first-line approach when somebody is showing behavioral expressions. It should never be a first-line approach, even though it often is. But this is a very clear, here, we could try this as a first-line approach. And so I love that.
I do too. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So Allison, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming and sharing your story and how Zinnia got created, and that you're sharing this generous discount with our Careblazer audience. Careblazers, I'll be sure to put that URL, ZeniaTV.com, and the code Careblazers20 below in the description. So you can just click on that and use it if you need. But anything else you'd like to say, Allison, before we end?
I just want to say that to the folks who are part of your audience, to pat themselves on the back for being here. I just think that for care partners who are actively seeking community and seeking ways to do things better, because it serves the person that we love, but it also serves ourselves. So yay, you.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll be back next week with another video. As always, Careblazers. All right, sending you love. Bye. Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free. And Nico says, thank you very much.